This is Josh Walrath from PC Perspective, and we have a brand new review out for you today, and this is something that's actually kind of interesting, and something that hasn't really been attempted before, at least as far as I know. The idea of removable fans has been bandied about, and some people have actually successfully done this. But it has not been very popular. But now we're seeing technology that is being applied to this area that could make it a little bit more interesting for the end users. And the perpetrator of this are our friends XFX, this new product, and they have a whole series of products. But the one that we're reviewing is the AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX Limited Edition. And this one is of the Mercury series, so it's rather beefy, as one would expect. The packaging for this, it's really quite attractive. It's, the big box that XFX usually does. Not as bulky as some of the others. But let's talk a little bit about XFX. They originally were an NVIDIA partner. And they had multiple successful products through that, but for one reason or another, they were kind of shut out of the loop. And they had to search for another partner, and that partner was AMD. I remember back in the day, the 7800 GTX that I had received from XFX was an outstanding product. And if you had bought one of those in, 2007, 2008, you would have used it for like 2 to 3 years because the architecture was just so good. The pricing was competitive. The build quality of this was really, really good. And I can say very few bad things about XFX in my experience. Now, not everybody has the same experience that I have. But again, I've had nothing but good experience with them. Let's bring out the first one that I've had that it was a monster. And this is the, let's call this the Merc 319 RX 6800 XT. This is one of the first cards that I've received from XFX. It was the Radeon RX 6800 XT, and this is a beast. And this has been in constant use for the past 4 years. And it's been a fantastic card. The LED lighting is really, really restrained as compared to a lot of the companies out there. It had, three fans, 100 millimeter and 90 millimeter. This thing kept really cool. It was well built, metal top, metal back plate. I mean, it was just super stiff. If you really clamp down on the screws on the front, you didn't need anything to really hold it up in the back because it was just so well built. It was so well framed. And this is still in use today with one of the test machines. And it's been a fantastic performance. It was above average in terms of performance because the cooling was so extreme. And power consumption was high. I mean, if you really unlocked it, then it could go above, 500 watts at the wall. It was a big card. It was a lot of love there. And, if you had bought it, which at the time was not a great time to buy a video card because of the mining craze, but if you were able to have gotten it at least purchased it at MSRP, you had a great card for a long time. Cool running, good quality, everything that you asked of it. I mean, it overclocked a little bit. When you started overclocking it, then it got up there into the 550, 600 range of watts from the wall. But it was a great card. And it was my introduction to the way XFX had designed and built their products, and now we've got a new one. This limited edition with the let me pronounce this correctly, magnetic air cooling. So this is a 3.5 slot. It's the 7900 XTX. Very, very similar in terms of overall design of the previous that I just showed you. But the big thing about this is, one, its size. It's massive. And two, it's got these magnetic fans. Again, I'm unsure why anybody has not done this before, but XFX has really taken this to heart, and they've designed these new fans that are 100 millimeter in size, and they're magnetic. So if you need to remove these to clean inside, you can just pop them out. It's, as you can see, there are 4 pins here that go up against, it's hard to get good recs, but there are 4 different circles of metal in there, and each one of them is, power, ground, and then power and how fast it's going. Anyway, you need 4 of them, like a 4-pin CPU fan. How that works. So, yeah. When you need to take these out to clean, you just pop them right out. And to install them, it just snaps in. It's magic. These are actually pretty solid fans. The thing that I like about them most is they have gotten this outer ring. Because if you know anything about aerodynamics, thermodynamics, well, not thermodynamics, but hydrodynamics, is if you have an edge that is spinning in free air, it's going to cause vortices and turbulence. But when they wrap it around in a ring, a lot of those issues go away. So you have 2 positive things. You've got a quieter fan. You've got less turbulence, which, give or take, if you want to cool something and over cooling fins, the more turbulence, the better. But at the same time, you're generating a lot more sound and noise from that turbulence. So you want to have higher pressure. You want to have more airflow. And the fins themselves inside of here are going to provide a lot of turbulence. So the fan itself, if it's actually doing less turbulence and higher pressure, because there's less air going out of the lateral end of these fans, it's all being pressed and forced down in, you're going to have higher pressure, and so greater cooling. Again, these just snap right in. They're perfectly balanced, and they work really, really, really well. The card itself is a tank. It's got the 3 power connectors up there. It's a, let me make sure I get this right, 327 watt TDP. So it's higher than, for example, the RTX 4070 Ti Super. It's in the same area as the 4080 Super, but this is pretty much the second fastest overall video card in the world right now as compared to the RTX 4090. The 4090 is above and beyond the fastest card out there. And AMD has still done a pretty good job with this. It's got a 384 wide memory bus, and that's GDDR6 running at, I think, 20 gigabit per second. So it gives you 960 gigabytes per second of throughput, which is a lot. Think about some of the early HBM numbers, which was a true 1024 wide. Actually, no, it was like 4K wide memory bus that was hitting 1 terabyte. Well, this is knocking on the door. It's a very fast card. And even though it was released in November of 2022, it's still one of the fastest cards out there. And yes, it does pull some power, but you got to expect that as compared to what NVIDIA has. Arguably a slightly better design, but the things that this does is still really, really, really good. Apparently the MSRP on this is going to be $979.99, which is reasonable. It was over $1,000 when it was first released all those years back, but we have improvements in cooling, power delivery, and of course these really, really magical fans. I'll just talk a little about my experience about these things. So I have it in an open air test bench, and at no load, obviously they're not spinning. I have a Cooler Master all-in-one, 2-fan, 240 millimeter water-cooled device on the CPU, 2 case fans that are blowing through there, and I could never tell when this thing actually started up. The fans were not moving. I started a benchmark. Going through the benchmark, I look underneath there, and sure enough, those fans are spinning. The only time that I ever heard these fans spinning up was when I enabled automatic overclocking through the AMD Adrenalin program, where it took it up a couple of hundred megahertz core speed, and it'd start to warm up, and then I'd start to hear these fans. Otherwise, at normal use, they were absolutely silent. These go up to 3200 RPM, but again, if you're not overclocking this card in, kind of regular temperatures, I'm talking about 70 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit ambient, it just never made a sound. The heatsink on this, obviously, is just absolutely massive. Underneath this shroud is a little bit more of the heatsink that you can't see, but it's got a ton of heat pipes. It's got a vapor phase heat plate. It is really super, super overbuilt, extremely heavy. So the stand that XFX includes in the box, which is nice that they have done this, it's not really big. It is this size undone, and then you can take it out to this long, and you can take a look at my finger here, and that's what, 6 inches? It's more like 4 inches. So if you've got a case that has, like some of the newer NZXT cases, which has a cover over the power supply that goes across, and you only see, basically to the bottom of the motherboard, then you can mount this on there, and it will hold up very nicely the back end of this card. But if you've got an older case that doesn't have that shelf, that, only goes all the way down to below to where the power supply is mounted, this is not long enough. It's not anywhere near. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's a neat design. Again, magnet at the back. It's a nice padded top here. If you have one of these smaller cases, or a case that segregates the power supply from the main motherboard and video cards, you can mount that on there and it works perfectly fine. In my case, it does not. I had to use a Power Color product to able to get up there and balance it out, because honestly, this thing it's like 5 pounds. It's monstrous, and you need to have some support. Otherwise, you're going to be potentially breaking off some of the stuff. I will also have to say that this card is not that much lighter. And I've used this for multiple years without a brace on the end of this. So your mileage is going to vary, but this is something you need to keep in mind. In terms of performance, this performs like a 7900 XTX. It is a very, very fast, solid, it can play anything type of card. It is far faster than a RTX 4070 Ti Super. It is kind of sitting above the 4080 Super range. In some applications, it is getting very close to the 4090. And it's doing that at a price that is much, much, much lower. It's got 24 gigs of memory, so that's a plus. It's got that full wide memory bus, achieving almost 1 terabyte per second of throughput in terms of memory. And that's not even counting the large amount of caches that AMD has included with the design. And don't get me wrong, RDNA 3 is not perfect. It's still kind of required, it's like back in the days when AMD had issues with tessellation. Just didn't do it as fast as NVIDIA. And so things like Crysis 2 came out, that there were areas that were so overly tessellated that it proved to be a huge bottleneck for AMD cards. And that was artificially made. I mean, they had flat spots that were still made of thousands of triangles. It didn't make any sense, but it was there to, kneecap the competition. And so RT performance, of course, takes a hit whenever you do this, but that hit, of course, is offset by things like AMD FSR 2.1, AMD FSR 3.0 that just came out, Hyper RX, which is another product that is in software that you can enable with the 7000 series and to improve overall performance, lower latency, all of those really good things that gamers want. And so if you're running an NVIDIA card that was of an older generation, getting one of these is not necessarily a bad idea because it performs really, really well. And it's got 24 gigs of memory in it. And then you add in the sweet removable fans. I mean, look at these little chumps in here. You grab them by the fins and you pull them out, because I'll tell you what, these magnets are no joke. You got to do some serious. And I sent Sebastian a video from XFX that, they had these kind of running and people were popping in when the card was powered on, and they snap in and just start running. And again, this is a great design. It's a great idea. And these fans are really, so far, exceptionally good. They're quiet running. They've got a good amount of pressure behind them. They move air very, very well across the design. And just, I'm ecstatic to be able to get my hands on this card and test it out. It has not fallen down in any application that I've messed with, tested with. XFX has made a really, really interesting product. They've implemented it well. It works. It's just so smooth. It's easy to take these things out. Other people have done it before, but they've had to have, mounting platforms, and you got to deal with wires, and it's not easy. This is, let me get my fingers in there and pop it out. And that's all you got to do. The magnets just... So that's the long and short of it. XFX has an entire series of products from the 7900 to the 7800s, which will utilize this technology. And if you like to keep your things clean, then this is fantastic. It is easy to take these fans out, clean the backside, because if you've ever had anything like, say this power color, it's translucent, and as soon as dust builds up behind there, you can see it. And it's so hard to get behind there and actually clean. And of course, the dust itself impedes cooling, and so you have a harder running card. And with these, you just take it, pop it out, you blow out, clean the back side, front side, pop it back in, and you're done. And it just works. And XFX is so proud of this. They're not only patenting it, but if you buy one of these cards, and if one of those fans go out, they will replace it for free. So, I'm not entirely sure of all the details behind that, but that is their promise. If you send them a defective fan, they will just send you a new one for free, because they've got a lot of confidence in these. They look good, they feel good, they're quiet, and they cool this card really, really, really well. It never went above 66C on the GPU, and it is an absolute monster. It just churns through everything, especially Starfield, for obvious reasons. But even in ray tracing stuff, Forza Horizon 5, Formula 1 2023, it just runs. It runs very, very well. So yeah, I've got to give a big thumbs up to XFX. It's an outstanding card. It has worked very well. I've had no issues with multiple XFX cards that have been through here. So I've been very impressed with them. The build quality is outstanding. The card itself, if you were to take a look at this, it's monstrous. It's not just cooling. It is a big card with a lot of VRMs, well built, well spaced. Everything about this is really outstanding, and I've enjoyed my time in testing this. And I hope that you give it a chance too, and see what it's about. But again, the magnetic air fans are the big selling point in these products, and hopefully they will do well. And so thank you for listening in at the PC Perspective and this view of the XFX 7900 XTX Limited Edition Magnetic Air. So, get those credit cards ready and go buy yourself a new video card. Thanks.